Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies. We have Tank Mommy on the couch behind me and HEATSEEKR in the BTD, flying in formation with another of his kind. And you know that when the bomb drops, it's not on a base this time, but in the face of the enemy. HEATSEEKR getting rid of his bomber role to go anti-fighter, as you can in the BTD. For those of you that didn't know this fantastic torpedo bomber premium before Naval Forces came out, in the day it was one of those bombers that's not really a bomber. It's an excuse to start at high altitude where your somewhat below average performance as a fighter can give you a chance, even with only 2 American 20 mils, to go bomber hunting, to get the jump on some enemy fighters before they can get the energy advantage over you, and diving down to take down a German Bf-109 of some kind, probably a G at this tier, proving the point that HEATSEEKR in the BTD, before it was a terror in naval battles with its 2 very capable American torpedoes at a reasonably low battle rating where you'll face mostly destroyers and light cruisers. The BTD making a splash back in the day as the fighter that no one really expects. As an actual torpedo bomber, it's well equipped to play the numbers game against naval forces in real life, able to easily deal serious damage to enemy naval craft, able to get into position much more rapidly than other torpedo bombers of the day, and yet appearing a little bit too late to really be relevant in that game. In the game of War Thunder, it is one of those airplanes that sort of flies below the radar. Well, torpedo bombers shouldn't they? Because it's not really heavily armed, although the ANM whatever American Hispanos punch just fine even when you only have 2. The AP is generally very satisfying. You can see it set afire that Focke-Wulf, and the high explosive is very capable of destroying enemy control surfaces. Taken together, even the default belts, or the universal belt for the 20 mils, can be effective. But you're not going to one-tap most enemies. You do need to get a few hits on them. And that's where, as HEATSEEKR goes into a rolling scissors into a vertical spiraling loop, the BTD can come through for you with a surprising amount of horsepower for a torpedo bomber in its double-stacked radial engine, with an unsurprising amount of low-speed maneuverability with its large Fowler-type flaps, I think, as well as an awesome, one of the most intimidating and awesome-looking air brakes in the game. The BTD, drawing lines in the sky there, looks like Whoop-de-Doo's logo, is very capable in the low-speed game. The enemy Bf-109, unable to maneuver with him, pulls away from the fight. When you're in the BTD at this relatively low altitude, now with an enemy fighter on his tail, HEATSEEKR going into a 90-degree turn and a loop, and a climb with a rollover, pulling some neg-G to get onto the tail of the Bf-109, popping flaps soon, yes indeed. This is where the BTD shines. If you can get the enemy down to low speed, in terms of defensive flying, the BTD is just as capable as a Focke-Wulf with less roll, and against a Bf-109 who does not have the best roll in the game either. If the enemy fighter is going to play your game, which is to persist in maneuvering, an experienced pilot like HEATSEEKR can make them pay the price. The BTD, not the best handling, in fact fairly terrible handling at high speed. I'm not sure if it still does the wobble at around 300 miles per hour, but that's pretty annoying. What it does have, in addition to taking that pilot snipe with AP, is the ability to handle very well at low speeds. It maintains controllability, which allows you to do well in maneuvers like the small rolling scissors that you saw HEATSEEKR doing earlier, as well as vertical loops at low speed, which can really be used to your advantage, things that HEATSEEKR demonstrated well. There's that air brake. Doesn't that thing look amazing? It's like the Predator's face, and a very predatory style played by HEATSEEKR today. The other thing the BTD has going for it that we've seen demonstrated in this video is that high horsepower engine with the ability to drop speed quickly to maneuver well at low speed and to recover energy rapidly in a straight line. The BTD has demonstrated in this battle, in the hands of an experienced player, its ability to defeat enemy aircraft if they'll play its game. Now, the BTD is not the kind of aircraft that's going to chase down a Bf-109 or a Focke-Wulf if they're at equal energy states, but that's not the way things work out in War Thunder, now is it? And considering that this is a bomber, considering it only has two 20 mils, it has a surprising amount of viability. It's not something that's going to do well if you play it like it's a P-40, excuse me, or a P-47. You won't do well if you try to be a Mustang. You won't compete against a Bf-109 at the energy trap game. But what this has, seeing here, low speed maneuverability. It really feels a lot like that Japanese light bomber. I can't remember the name of it, but really improved in every way. Good low speed turn, good stability, plenty of ammunition for the two 20 mils, lots of engine power. A good combination, an odd combination, and a satisfying vehicle in its own small way. Will you get an ace every time? Not likely. Can you pick up 1 or 2 kills on average for an experienced player? Sure, why not? And you can also do things like practice skip bombing. You can torpedo a couple of destroyers. You can do all kinds of fun stuff in the BTD. It is a Swiss Army knife of a torpedo bomber. Good at a whole lot of stuff. Not the best. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're probably going to cut your finger. Anyway, that has been the better part of a 5-kill game for HEATSEEKR, that's right. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted today. And we're going to see a little bit more action coming up here. Now, this is late in the game, and the German team is often low and slow by this point if they haven't aggressively reclimbed. And that's definitely one of those things that if you have the time to focus on yourself, it's always good to pick up some altitude, especially against the American team, where it seems like everything American has more horsepower than you, more straight line speed than you, and is very capable of running you down and gunning you down. You would think that a low altitude torpedo bomber would be an exception, but it's not, because it's the BTD. This is, for those of you that don't know, a premium rank, I think it's a rank 3 in the American tree, and rank 3s aren't worth what they used to be, but now, going from a head-on into a looping over scissors, finding convergence, BTD easily able to outturn the Bf-109, who should have gone more vertical with his maneuvers here. In a rolling scissors, the BTD is going to win every time, but who sees a BTD these days? Who throws a shoe? Seriously. And who flies a BTD in a fighter roll? It's just not fair. And the Bf-109 committing to flat turns low on energy, slow in speed, diving now to use the terrain to pick up some speed, but persisting in going in this rolling scissors. He's wasting energy here. What you want to do at this point in the BF-109 is dip low, follow the terrain, and then try to extend. The BTD is not going to have the high range acceleration that you have, even at low altitude. But what can I say? This is how you learn. That BF-109 pilot is no doubt going to readdress his strategies in the future, and I hope you all consider the BTD. It's been sitting around in my hangar for a while, but I've had a lot of good times in the aircraft, and the fact that it can carry 2 torpedoes into naval battles makes it a great thing to throw into your Navy lineups at and above 4.0. Now, Star Destroyer 3 is going to show us how to Spitfire. And this is a little bit more traditional of a flyer. A turn fighter in the British line that should be no surprise to any of you. If you haven't faced a Spitfire or played alongside one, you just haven't been playing War Thunder at this battle rating. One of the most popular aircraft types in the game, with a massive number of variants available to several nations. This is your typical Spitfire gameplay, and yet again we've got the UI turned off because this is just gorgeous War Thunder goodness as we stare into some admittedly unsexy clouds. Anyway, Star Destroyer is going to pick up, I think, 4 or 5 kills in this match. I'm not quite sure, but who's counting? What we're really here for is those exciting dogfights. Starting off right, SD3 climbing to gain the altitude advantage. Everyone seems to be faster than you when you're in a Spitfire until you get higher up, and then people are still generally a little bit more speedy, everything else being equal. What the Spitfire excels at, as I'm sure you're all aware, is flat turning and draining energy from the enemy. Because it's such a lightweight aircraft with a reasonably strong engine, the Spitfire is able to recover energy much faster than most of the opponents that it faces. If you're in a BF-109 with an energy advantage, you can sometimes trap a Spit, but their short-term vertical maneuverability can mean that they might get a chance to get those 20s on you for a while, not to mention the rifle caliber machine guns that they still insisted on mounting by 4s in the wings of these British fighters. Later on, of course, the higher level Papa Spits get more 20s and F4U. Looks like we're going up against the US. A preparation for the landing at Hokkaido used to be the only place you would face US, and I'm not sure if that's this map or not. I think or not. Some kind of sea bordering map, appropriate for the Spit, I suppose. And switching targets now. Another American. Is that a P-40? Yes, it is, I think. And one of the caveats with the Spitfire, especially in the early models like the one you see here, is that those 20s supported by rifle caliber machine guns, along with the small complement of ammunition that they have, are not the kind of cannon you can afford to spray and pray with. Something that gives a huge advantage to the average player in the average fight, especially against multiple opponents. On the American side is the incredible amount of ammunition, almost double the standard that was intentionally given to American pilots. Back in the day, America did incredible amounts of research in the field about what pilots needed in their battles, and there's a limit to the amount of maneuverability that you can take advantage of as a pilot, especially as an inexperienced pilot. There's only so many Gs you can pull, so it doesn't matter if your lightweight Spitfire can pull 10 Gs at low altitude. If you can't sustain that, you can't take advantage of it. And what American pilots needed was speed and lots of ammunition. And that is what procurement gave them. More ammo, and then some more ammo. Something that British pilots did not take advantage of. A different doctrine, if you will. A maneuverability. Being able to ride the tail of your enemy and line up those shots. And a lightweight airframe with a powerful engine that didn't have the most range. Something that would seem ludicrous to an American who would have to fly 1,500 miles for a day trip because America is so large and the oceans between us and anyone that wants to pick a fight, unless you're Mexico or Canada, we're watching you. Means that range is incredibly important to American aircraft, and Britain, with her neighbors often belligerent and a channel between them and whoever's probably going to invade after they kick over France, means that range is not quite such an important factor for British fighters. And to see America versus Britain in these fights in War Thunder is highly educational. What if we discovered oil on the British mainland? Well, I get the impression we'd be facing a lot of short-range fighters back in that war, with the ability to stay on American pilots' tail and gun them down, just the way we see Star Destroyer doing here. He's been carefully lining up his shots. He's been holding down the trigger for less than a second in controlled bursts, but enough of a spray to give himself a chance to hit those difficult shots and hit with enough ammunition to cripple or take down his enemy. American pilots often engaging in a 2-on-1 or a multiple dogfight situation have not seen Star Destroyer coming for the most part, and with the ability to maneuver a few times, often you see him in these flat turns, a few rolling scissors here or there. He has been able to do very well, and he along with his teammates who have flown very well in this battle have shown that if you decide to tangle with a Brit on his turf, you'd better not play his game. American pilots, be warned. Get an altitude advantage. Use your top speed advantage. Attack in teams. Take your shots. Spray and pray from long range. Star Destroyer, with no one actually targeting him during this match, never had to worry about how fragile the airframe, how delicate the engine of the Spitfire can be. American pilots, with their ability to push the head-on, to spray more and just roll those dice, never really were able to take advantage of their strengths when they decided to engage in dogfights with British aircraft. Now, let's see some true American power. Viski 253 in the F-86. I think this is the Cannon Sabre. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure we'll see shortly. I actually talked with Viski yesterday a little bit on the Discord. He popped into a voice chat, and I said, "Oh, hey, Mantis." I thought he was Mantis. He wasn't Mantis. It was Viski, which is funny because that's the second time I've called him by the wrong name. I actually put him in the title of a video, one of my replay videos recently, and he wasn't in the video. I thought it was him. I got confused. I get confused. It happens a lot. Ask my wife. She's smiling. She just gave me a little nod. She's doing mommy stuff right now. we just had a pretty typical morning. The 1-year-old wakes up early. This time it was like 7:30, which is like 3 hours later than normal, and she wakes up so happy. And then she just wants to explore and constantly munch on foods. And then Big Sis woke up, Brooklyn, who's 2, and as soon as she comes out of her bedroom, she's not a morning person. She's very grumpy. She's tired of Baby Sis getting into her things, and she's very territorial. And I had to deal with that. So Big Sis was pretty grumpy today. So we went from a really relaxing, enjoyable morning with our 1-year-old, who is just becoming a toddler and getting into everything, to dealing with a very territorial 2-year-old. But when you're talking about defending your turf, that does indeed sound like a cannon saber. I think Viski was using the chat, and as soon as you hit the 1 key, I think that's automatically bound to your basic guns. The cannon saber, with an incredible amount of ammunition, an incredible fire rate, and fantastic burst mass, one of those beautiful American spray and pray type jets, can push the advantage that the already very capable saber has, by increasing their lethality at increased ranges. And there's definitely something to be said in War Thunder for putting a whole lot of mass of deadly objects downrange toward your target. Why maneuver when you can spray and pray? I'm not sure what we'll see from Viski today, but I am sure we're going to see some kills. In fact, I know we're going to see 4, which in a jet battle is not bad at all. And here we see the sprayer and the prayer getting a engine hit on the MiG, which is very helpful, as Viski is now at stall speed and losing altitude, still playing very aggressively. More often than not, I'll feature Viski videos where he's on the ground and playing very aggressively against enemy ground vehicles. He plays the game of War Thunder almost like one of those action-based first-person shooters, like Call of Duty or Cuisine Royale. That's right, Cuisine Royale. That's one of the games that Viski's playing now. I was talking with him yesterday, and a beautiful spray toward the Swift F1, swiftly taking him down. The enemy's energy advantage of no avail if you overshoot and give the F-86 a chance to return the favor. The lethality of these cannons changing the game for Viski's aircraft. Another good attempt at taking down an enemy aircraft, unsuccessful, as Viski decides what his next target will be. You can see the Viski maneuvers when necessary, but he keeps his speed in mind. 400 miles per hour is slow for a Saber, and while your roll rate is still good and you're able to cut maneuvers through the sky, you will quickly be outmaneuvered by enemy fighters if you don't manage to quickly take down your target and reorient back to gaining speed. These are jet matches. Things happen fast. Enemies close rapidly. Speed is life, and causing swift destruction to your enemy is of paramount importance. To get back to the subject of the talk I had with Viski, he is taking a break for War Thunder. He says he's done with the game, and you know what? There's a lot of people that are done with the game. So it's especially nice, when I say that, there are a lot of people that are done with War Thunder, people that I knew from back in the day, but there's even more people coming into the game. It is always a myth so far when people say that War Thunder is dying, that the player base is walking away. Think about it. How many hours have people put into this game? Far beyond the numbers that I've put into most of my other games. And to put down War Thunder for a while is a sane, rational, and reasonable thing to do. If you walk away from War Thunder, that's normal. You're supposed to stop playing a game after a while. It's weird to be like me and just keep coming back to it. So, yeah. What I was going to say is that it's especially nice to be able to share a replay from Viski now that I won't be seeing him in the game of War Thunder so much. And he's always welcome to come back. Join the rest of us psychotic people that have just committed to playing this game until it or we die. Now, getting into cannon range of another Swift F1, a very popular aircraft at this battle rating. Doesn't have the maneuverability, but it definitely has the speed. Faster, though, are the 20 mil bullets shot with extreme rapidity out of the cannons of the Cannon Saber. Viski might not be able to chase you down, but he doesn't have to. He just needs you to fly somewhat predictably, and when speed is your only advantage, you're not really allowed to maneuver all that much. And when you're greeted by a cloud of 20mm ammunition that can easily shred your aircraft, well, you only have one chance to realize you've made a mistake, and it's on your way to the hangar. Now, one last enemy, one last victim, one long burst on the 20 mils, a miss, but no, a little bit of a hit, maybe, not quite sure. Enemy Saber going into a rolling scissors. Viski finding convergence once again. A third and a fourth spray, and the enemy is taken down. He did maneuver, he did his best, he didn't survive. Cannon Saber, very deadly. Viski, I hope to still see you around on the Discord, and to all of you, I look forward to hearing from you on the Discord and seeing the replays you send my way. Link in the description below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.